This is the third video of the series by AHauntedBarista. I will have a card above linking to the full playlist with all the parts, but feel free to jump in here. Thank you for listening. I'm a barista that serves the odd and supernatural. Today, I think I might have killed one of our customers on accident. I work at the Drowsy Spectre, a cafe positioned in a place sure to never get any business. No human business, that is. I made a chai latte for a chatty skinwalker, and one time a sort of spider lady thing tried to get me to marry her. I politely declined, and Celine, aided by Barrow, had to remove her from the establishment. In short, a lot of weird stuff happens. I've only been there a week, or two if you count all my lost days. We're open again, yay! Richard is looking for someone to fill Jonathan's role, but for now he's giving John and I overtime to be the humans on shift. I have nothing better to do, so I won't complain about extra money. I'm on break and I realize that the updates I give don't really give you an image of my actual shift. Sure, you hear plenty about Tall Ben. No, I have not given him meat despite mixed advice from y'all, and Bill Goth. There are plenty of things worth writing about during everyday shifts, especially during the 5 days we all went missing. That's another thing. Richard is pushing back against paying us for those days. Who am I supposed to complain to, and what would I say? Hey, I was in a pocket dimension where time moves differently. Am I owed pay for that? No one in their right mind would listen. Anyway, just an hour ago, I was minding my own business at the front counter. It had been a slow day so far. The store was actually empty, save for one customer in a dark corner. They didn't order anything, just watched. I really couldn't bring myself to care, to be honest. Then, in through the front door comes a massive fly. I mean Dwayne Johnson if his legs and arms were sticks. This bug's core and chest belonged to a bodybuilder. It had a person's face, too, but with an elongated nose and mouth. Yeah, I did not and still don't like that thing. As customers go, however, it was quite tame. It walked up on legs that were far too thin to support its hulking body, and inspected our seasonal specialist that sat next to the front register. Vikanilkuav? Was that supposed to be English? I'm sorry, would you mind repeating that for me? Ilk Anthonaj? I looked over at Em, who was cleaning our bakery case. Breaking character, I leaned towards her. Can you understand this guy? She handed over some ticket papers and I understood. I gave a Sharpie in the paper to the fly, which seemed to please it greatly. It scribbled for a moment, then handed the paper back to me. I read it out loud just in case. Do we have aged milk? It nodded. Barrow was on bar. Aged milk? For a split second, Barrow grimaced, but he quickly adopted a mask. Certainly, we have curdled whole milk and almond milk. It took back the paper to write down its order. A peppermint mocha latte, hot, with curdled whole milk, and, if we had any, some spoiled meat. I knew about our store of rotten food in the very back, but I was not aware of our alternative milk options that Barrow pulled out of a pantry to his right. It wasn't refrigerated, which I guess made sense if one is trying to spoil something. The espresso machine had 2 wands for frothing, but we used both for normal drinks. I had to repress a gag when Barrow used those same wands for the fly's drink. I wouldn't be getting any more hot drinks in the future, that was for certain. John came up with a plate of assorted brown meat that was turning black at the edges. The fly, whose face was human, smiled from its eyes and nodded thanks to John. Then it came back over near the register to wait for its drink. The bell at the door sounded, welcoming a small lizard. I swear it was the Geico gecko. Walked on their hind legs and everything, identical to the one in the commercials. They walked right up to the counter and must have caught me staring because I got a hot glare. Look, in the moment I suspended disbelief after everything I'd seen and considered the possibility that the Geico gecko was real. It lifted its green head, realized just how far from the register they were, and made a move to climb up to meet me. The gecko was short and didn't even come close to my knee, therefore the inconvenience of the situation was clear to the fly. It kindly leaned down, lifted the gecko, and placed it on the counter in front of me. "Thank you for that." That was a noticeably feminine voice. I opened my stupid ass mouth. "Are you the—" She already knew what I was going to ask. "Do I sound like effing Martin? Do you see a black guy and ask if he's Obama?" Yeah, that was fair. I deserved that. Of course, I'm so sorry. Not the Geico Gecko. I should just walk out for that, but it's a long fall and I'm already up here. I don't even know if lizards can have coffee. Are geckos lizards? That was a yes. I was certain of that. As for their capability of metabolizing caffeine, I did not know. Maybe you could try something small. Is that a joke, huh? No, I mean just a sip to see if it upsets your stomach. Yeah, I'll do that. Just black. I want to taste something normal for once. Her words heavily suggested that being a lizard was new to her, so I continued the theme of dumb questions in an attempt at small talk. "So, been a lizard for long?" The gecko stared at me for a moment. "Did that sound better in your head?" "Not really, no." "Well, to be perfectly honest, I've only been like this for a month or so. Made a deal with some man-witch. I only wanted to know if my crush Paul liked me. But when I shook his hand, I woke up like this. Can't find the bitch anywhere." That sounded familiar. "So, you have to eat like a lizard too?" "Well, seeing as I'm a gecko now, yeah, gecko things. Like bugs, grubs, crickets, flies." She looked up to the buff fly. "No offense." It lifted an arm and shook its head. A clear dismissal of the need for an apology. Gross. Then I found myself facing the fly. Again, no offense. That gave it a laugh as it again waved off the apology. That curdled latte smelled horrible. Em must have heard our conversation because she brought a small sample cup of coffee to the lizard, whose name I had yet to ask for. How rude of me. "I'm sorry, what's your name?" "Laura." She smiled, I think. Em shook the lizard's tiny hand. "You're not the first person to be turned into an animal around here. Lots of weird stuff in Riker Valley, even weirder people. If you want, you're welcome to stay with me while you figure things out." That was a very generous offer. I have some geckos as pets, so I know what they need. Though I'm not sure if you'd like their company. I might be a lizard for now, but I like people a lot more. She took a little sip of coffee, swallowed, and waited for a moment. Then she proceeded to drop dead. Oh, I managed to get out before Em leapt into action. She cursed under her breath. "Good to know. Geckos can't have coffee." Em hurried into the kitchen, nearly pushing John over as she rushed to save Laura's life. The fly seemed concerned, but clearly recognized that it did not need to be involved in the situation. It gave a bow to Barrow and I before leaving out the front door, flying to God knows where. One of the many rules, one person must be at the front counter at all times. Barrow agreed to stay while I checked on our little friend. I guess pixies do have magic of some kind, because Em was sprinkling something that glittered onto Laura's face. I saw the weakest breath, the slightest shift in her chest, and felt a bit of relief. Em turned and saw me. "I think she will live. I'll keep her at my place until she's better." Better would be not being a lizard, I'd think, but I knew what she meant. Good, I should have known lizards can't have coffee. None of us did. I don't think I've ever served one. First time for everything, right? I'm literally crying right now. She wasn't kidding. I thought she was already dead. Laura hadn't woken, but she was still breathing when we locked up and went home. I don't know what sort of creature turned her into a lizard, but that didn't sound like fun, so I made a mental note. It seemed like an all-around bad idea to make any sort of deal with the things that come into the shop. So, even if you're desperate, don't shake the hand of a witch, man or woman, in the woods, because lizards, as we've just learned, cannot have coffee. I've got more to tell y'all, but I've got to clock back on. Stay safe out there. I'm a barista at a cafe that serves the odd and supernatural. Someone tried to turn me into a pet. I work at the Drowsy Spectre, a cafe positioned in a place sure to never get any business. No human business, that is. that spider lady came back on Monday with the same proposal, which I denied. She left on her own this time. A giant seems to have gotten into my head. Okay, so a lot has happened to me since my last update. God, I'm still shaking. For those who have been following, you probably think that I messed up and gave Tall Ben some meat, or that I broke a rule at the cafe. You're wrong though, I followed all the rules, for the most part, and still nearly ended up with a fate worse than death. A fate very similar to Laura's. That was the lady that somehow got turned into a giant day gecko. Oh yeah, you probably want an update on her. That's where today's story starts anyway. I got a text from Em on Tuesday. She wanted to let me know how Laura was doing, since it was my idea to let her try some coffee. She woke up, which I thought was a good thing, but there was no sign of humanity in her. No more talking, no walking on her hind legs, just a lizard. Don't get me wrong, I love reptiles, but Laura was still sleeping somewhere inside. Or, I hope this isn't true, she's gone. If that is the case, then Em has a lot to answer for. I can't really see to that, as I'm just a regular person among the supernatural. All I have is my running mouth to get me out of trouble. That and a lengthening binder of rules that I've started keeping for myself, seeing as I took the apartment offer. Richard really wanted me to move, so he paid for me ending my contract early. New place isn't bad, and, just as promised, it's super close to the drowsy specter. It would have been nice to know beforehand that the denizens that visit the cafe also frequent the apartments, as well as most nearby conveniences. Hence the list of rules I've been keeping, which is a major work in progress. Only way to know what the rules are is to watch my neighbors. I'm all moved in now, got that done on Wednesday. If I'm honest, what happened with Em greatly inspired my decision. Richard swore that he could protect me at these apartments. That might have been an exaggeration, but I needed it. Anyway, Em invited me over to her place to see Laura myself. Maybe seeing me would trigger something, since I'm the last person she saw before she basically died. I've been wanting to get closer to my coworkers, so this seemed like the perfect opportunity. Plus, as you may have caught on to by now, I am quite lonely. No one comes by my place that isn't looking to hurt me, or make a disgusting trade. Looking at you, Tall Ben. Em seemed sweet, so we agreed to meet before her shift on Tuesday. Since she lived near the new apartment, I got a chance to see the nearby area. As you already know, I ended up accepting, so you know that I liked what I saw. It was quiet, despite the supernatural hazard. Surrounded by forest, too, which made it both private and threatening. I was more intrigued by the happenings around the drowsy specter than afraid, so this did not deter me. It probably should have. One main road went through the tiny little town, if it could be called that. Elida, it was called. It had a grocery store that was open all hours, a little gas station, some houses, and the apartment building. Oh, there was a poor excuse for an emergency room too. Please, do not let anyone take me there. I'd prefer Rose Hill if I ever get injured, or just let me die along the way. The main road went deep into the woods forever, at least it felt like forever. Eventually, a small dirt path veered off to the left. I could see Em's house from there. She described it as cute. I guess I could see that. It was made of logs and stone, with vines growing all over, and a tree making itself at home, up the side of her home. I walked up and knocked on the door, but she did not answer. I recalled a rule at the cafe, one that I have not had to use just yet. 5 times I knocked, and she finally came to the door. I was just texting you about that, she laughed. Can't be too safe. Em tapped my shoulder and put her phone away. I'm so glad you're here, because the whole Laura thing is freaking me out. I'm not kidding, I feel so bad. I was the one that offered her coffee. I should have known it would hurt her. When I stepped into her home, I understood what she meant by that. Lots of aquariums, terrariums, were stacked without reason, at least to my untrained eye. Heat lamps, UVB bulbs, humidifiers, and who knows what else kept all sorts of critters comfortable in their little environments. Em tapped my shoulder again. It was more of a shove. Oh, I hope you aren't scared of lizards or bugs or anything. Not at all. Maybe snakes sometimes, but I wasn't going to say that. Where's Laura? Oh yeah. Led the way to her back porch, which was more of a large greenhouse. A wide cage with a door for a window housed a giant day gecko, one that was chilling on her substrate. She's normal, see? Hasn't spoken, doesn't act weird. She's a regular gecko. You don't think she's... I didn't want to say it. It seemed Em didn't mind. Dead? I don't know, honestly, maybe? I think her spirit is probably dormant somewhere inside. The instinctual autopilot of a giant day gecko has taken over. So what should we do? Things like this come at a cost. There might be a deal we can make with someone. Things like this come at a cost. There might be a deal we can make with someone. I did not like the sound of that. With who? You sound like you want to help people, Axel, like a good person. That's the thing about humans. Some are incredibly violent and some are good. Like you said, we're both at fault for what happened to her. You mostly, because you fed her coffee. That was a change in attitude. What sort of deal? What would we have to give up? That's why I like you, Axel. You didn't refuse. You considered paying a price of some kind without ever even knowing Laura. So, I'm sorry. Those were never good words to hear in someone else's home, especially one belonging to a supernatural being. What is this about? What are you sorry for? Is it true, son? Would you make a deal to save someone's life? I turned around in response to a man's voice and came face to face with a stranger. He stood in the doorway of the greenhouse in the direction I'd need to go to leave. It was a trap. I was invited to Em's house as a setup for whatever this was. His eyes were not yellow though, and I thought that was a good sign. Who are you? You've been working with my daughter. Oh, and you've met a business partner, I hear. He gestured at Laura. Shame that you poisoned her. Tends to be a side effect humans always cause. Damn, are you people good at killing things? They were related? He and Em? They shared the same blonde hair and hazel eyes. Small nose, wide mouth. That smile was much more devious on the man's face. What do you want? Oh, Axel, this is all about what you want. We pixies act as a middleman, you might say. Guide you to what you want, like any business. Some of us stick to the old ways, entirely too literal on the guidance part. I'm here to get you what you want, for a price. And what could a lonely, poor, broken thing like you want? Money? Love? I had nothing to say thus far. Answers? If I wanted answers, I could take a far less risky deal with someone else. That seemed to intrigue him, so Tall Ben hadn't made offers with the others. Maybe. What about poor Laura? It is your fault, you know that. You ought to fix it. Wait, I thought Em took a giant potion. How'd you get so big? That threw him off guard. Magic, of course. I don't need a stupid potion because I've got all my magic. Em, here, she was a changeling. Didn't grow up with her own. Which is why she's having this identity crisis. He rolled his eyes. Giant potion, ha! But she does have magic. I glanced at her from her spot behind me. I saw her help Laura when she almost died. Well, yeah, she is a pixie, just a confused one. I noticed that Em was blocking the back door ever so casually. I was trapped. It seems I can get answers without making a deal. He grimaced. Smart. Since you're smart, you know you're in a tough spot. It'd be easier to make a deal and save yourself some trouble. I thought we were friends, Em. I really did think we were. She hesitated and glanced at her father. Sure we are, Axel. This is a good thing. You can get anything you want from my father. Wait, Laura said that she got turned into a lizard by shaking a man's hand. A deal to find out if a certain lover was pining for her. Suddenly I was forced to view the animals in Em's house in a different light, but I kept my cool. This is a big thing to throw on someone, and you can't blame me for being a bit nervous. Guard the door if you need to, but I have to pee. They didn't say anything. Look, I'm about to piss myself right here. M's father grinded his teeth for a moment but stepped aside. Fine, but M will be watching your car. I don't think you're stupid enough to run out into the woods. Take the time to think about what you might want. Okay, that was good. I was guided by M's father to the bathroom and was thankful he let me close the door. There wasn't a window or anything, so I couldn't really sneak out. M had her toothbrush in a plastic cup, which worked out perfectly to my plan. You see, I've been doing some research about different folklore and mythological creatures, so when I say I had a plan that required me to pee in that cup, please trust me. I had to pee quite a lot though, I wasn't lying, and turned to the toilet when it was full. The plan was risky and had a high chance of only offending and pissing off the pixie that stood outside. There were a lot of cages in M's house, ones that might have iron on them in some way, some that might not. They're going to keep you as a pet mate. Someone behind me said. I turned to see a small snake on the corner of the floor, sticking out of a little hole. Get the hell out of here while you have the chance. I leaned down. Come with me. I've got a plan. Nah, whenever one of us leaves this place, we always get brought back. Always. Don't have our human parts left. Then M keeps us as pets. She hasn't noticed I escaped, and I'm not risking leaving. They know somehow. Trust me, I have a place that is safe. I wasn't sure about that. Please, trust me. The black snake flicked her tongue. Can you turn me back? I shrugged. Kid, you've got a cup of pee, and the warden is outside your door. Forgive me if I am not entirely confident. Well, if it goes wrong, you can slip out of my pocket. She considered this for a moment. Fine, but I have no idea what you plan to do. I scooped her up and put her in my left pocket. She fit snugly next to my phone, which had no signal. I checked. Then, knowing that there was a large chance my plan would fail, I swung open the door and locked eyes with M's father. He stared at me a moment, entirely confused as to why I had a cup of urine in my hand. Neither he nor M knew that I had a condition. How would they? Hemochromatosis, too much iron absorbed by the body. I take pills for it, which causes all that extra iron to mix with my urine. At least, I think it goes into my urine. Lots of ways this could go wrong. But pouring a cup of pee on someone would at least keep them busy for a second. So that's what I did. Soaked the shithead in almost an entire cup of pee. His face sizzled, so I guess there was iron in my pee. Enough, at least, to make him cry out in pain, or maybe surprise, and fall to the floor. He called me all sorts of names as I dashed through the house, but I hesitated at the front door. I couldn't save all of them, assuming they were all people at one time, but I could go back out the back door. I could save Laura, or at least what was left of her. I couldn't carry her cage, so I placed her in my jacket. I don't think giant day geckos are supposed to get that big, because she barely fit, and when she struggled, she put up a fight. I was saving her though, so I ignored her frantic attempts at escape as I hurried around the house, cup of remaining pee still in hand and ready to be weaponized. As promised, Em was waiting by the car. She saw the cup in my hand and my arm around my jacket. Maybe Laura's tail stuck out of the bottom of my jacket too. I don't know. What is that? She pointed at the cup. I didn't stop running at her. She must have caught on. Wait, I don't have the same weaknesses as the others. Don't. No time. I ran past her, let her have the rest of the cup, and leapt into the car. Not really sorry about that one. Even if it had zero effect aside from completely disturbing her. Drove right out of there and was not followed. Hard to give chase when you're covered in piss. So that's pretty much it. I got back to my place and got a box for Laura and the snake. Unfortunately, the snake didn't have much to say since we left. I was starting to worry that the person within was lost. But once I moved into my new place, she began talking again. Apparently, that happens when they leave the influence of Riker's curse. Not so lonely anymore, but I do wish that Laura would talk. I am also very nervous to go back to work alongside Em. Did anyone else at the shop know about any of this? That she was going to trap me? Basically, don't trust pixies. I read that they like to lead travelers off the path. to get them lost and generally cause trouble. I guess making deceitful deals is sort of the same thing in a way. If it weren't for my iron issues, I might not have had enough iron in my pee to make any impact. In short, sometimes disabilities and disorders can come in handy. So consider them strengths and not weaknesses. Might get you out of a bad situation with an evil pixie or something. P.S. Had this as a draft, posting on my break. I'm currently working with them and she hasn't said anything. I'm not sure what to say. She keeps glancing at me, then quickly looking away. Maybe I should talk to Barrow? Or better yet, John? I haven't spoken much to him at all, but something says the humans among us should stick together. Stay safe out there. I'm a barista at a cafe that serves the odd and supernatural. We have a high turnover rate. I work at the Drowsy Spectre, a cafe positioned in a place sure to never get any business. No human business, that is. One of my coworkers tried to turn me into an animal. DeGuire came back by, and a tree appeared at the register, but left when we couldn't figure out a way to communicate with it. In short, a lot of weird stuff happens. So, first off, I wanted to answer a question one of you asked. Yes, the snake has a name, but it turns out she can't recall. She has been trapped in M's house for longer than she can remember. All she knows is that she must be silent, lest she be caught. She calls herself Silence. Is that what you want me to call you? You don't have to sneak around anymore. You don't even have to be here if you don't want to. I told her. It is who I am now. If a snake could shrug, she would have. That's all I know. But a thought came to me. If you are Silence and must not make a sound or you might get caught, why did you speak to me? I don't know. She stayed. As it turns out, the convenience of being fed and not having to hunt far outweighed any freedom that the forests outside would offer. That, and she really didn't know how to snake, if that makes any sense. Sure, she could sneak around M's house undetected. That gave her no skills in avoiding predators outside, however, or finding shelter. The terrarium, which I kept open for her, had everything she could need. I still don't know what kind of snake she is, nor does she, so I guess I might be missing something. She is comfortable, though, and that's all that matters. Next comes the matter of my laptop. I brought it to work, then it went missing. That is the main reason for my lack of updates. Yeah, I know. I could have posted on my phone, but let's be honest, my fingers would have fallen off. It showed back up, so someone had to bring it back. That is a new mystery. Like I said, though, that is the main reason. But there's more. We had to hire someone new to replace Jonathan. No, we've not found out who killed him, nor have any of us figured out what happened to Bilgoth. Let's just say Barrow wasn't wrong about high turnover rates. But considering my last update, I'm sure you all want to know what happened in the aftermath of M's attempt at capturing me. I still have to work with her after all. Usually, M was talkative to anyone in her trusted group, meaning anyone who knew how to keep a secret, but ever since the day I visited her house and narrowly escaped, she was quiet. It seemed wise to ask her closest friend and shift leader, Barrow. Most of you guys said to stop trusting anyone that wasn't human. But that is kind of rough considering John has nothing to say. I did try, by the way. Kitchen folk tend to stay back there keeping to themselves. I had to infiltrate to attempt a conversation. Hey, John. Hey. He barely glanced up. We haven't talked much. Considering we're the only two humans, maybe we should get to know each other. Yeah, maybe. Well, it didn't seem like he was going to put any effort in. Do you do anything outside of work? My goal was to start some kind of friendship, if only a weak one, before prying. It wasn't going well. Not anymore, really. Anymore? That was a stupid question. John lifted his head, stared at me, and did not grace me with a response. All bonding attempts would have been useless. I saw to that, it seemed, so I cut to the chase. Has Em ever tried to turn anyone into an animal around here? But he seemed annoyed more than shocked. Damn it, no, she's not supposed to do that. Well, that's great, but it didn't help me. So this is a thing she does sometimes? Not her, not usually. Go ask Barrow. John waved me off. Just talk to him. I'm not in the mood. If M was prone to turning people into animals, then that should be in the rules. I went back to the bar. It was a slow day like most. Barrow was there, but M was too. It was an awkward, quiet hour before M announced she had to pee. When she asked Barrow to use the bathroom, she glanced at me and turned red. Pee cup. Why was I embarrassed? It was to save my life. But still, I couldn't help but redden myself. When she was gone, the perfect opportunity to bring the matter up with Barrow arrived. I opened my mouth. "Where are the cup carriers?" Keith asked. The new hire was on his second day, and honestly was doing a fine job, all things considered. I helped him, but Em was in the bathroom and time was limited, so I hurried back to Barrow. Thwarted again. The drive-thru went off. I hated that sound. I hear it in my sleep. I hear it in the sound of my fan running at home. I hear it in the wind. Of all things to haunt me at the Drowsy Spectre, that sound was the worst. "Welcome to the Drowsy Spectre. Order whenever you're ready." I forced a smile, keeping an eye on the bathroom door. "Just 1 second. Of course they needed to look at the menu. They didn't even have eyes. I could see from our camera, but I'm not sure what they were. They looked like a normal person. No eyes. Amber Bucker stood up from her little stand by the lake. There's a lake outside the back of the store, near the drive-thru. They did not roll down their passenger window to speak with her, and she just stood there waiting. Finally, they spoke. "Can I get a frozen cappuccino?" How sweet is that, by the way? Not only was a cappuccino impossible to make iced or frozen like a frappe, it also didn't traditionally come with any sweetener at all. That was a semi-common issue, thanks to countless brands that sold cappuccino-flavored creamer, K-cups, and all sorts of stupid things. For those that don't know, a cappuccino is espresso and a healthy amount of steamed milk that has more foam than milk. But I am not the type to get upset that people don't know this. Actually, the cappuccino can only come hot, and it normally doesn't have any sweetener. I can add some for you if you want. They made it for me last time. Okay, if that was true, then why the hell were they asking how sweet it was? I am sorry, I don't know who you spoke to, but we can't make that. Then I realized they may have meant frappuccino, not cappuccino. Did you say frappuccino with an F or cappuccino with a C, as in Charlie? The other person didn't ask all these questions. The camera darkened. Frozen cappuccino. I turned to Barrow. One thing to note is that our drive-thru does not have headphones, it's just a speaker. What should I do here? Just do a vanilla frappe, and if they don't like it, we can go from there. I liked that idea, so we went with that. I relented. Accepted the customer's order, thank God there wasn't more to it, and had them pull up to the window. They could wait a moment to be cashed out, though, so I went to Barrow as he was making the drink. "Did M talk to you?" "I was going to ask you the same thing," Barrow replied. "She has been really mellow for the past 2 days." I decided to be honest. She invited me to her house. Her father was there, and they ganged up on me. Barrow looked up, sighed, then lowered his head. Huh. She tried to turn you into an animal, didn't she? Like Laura? Exactly. There's one thing you have to understand, Axel. Em's parents are not like her. They did not have a human to nurture them as they grew. They have no value in our morals or our lives. She was raised by humans and was only taken back when she was in her teens. Em is torn between worlds, but she cannot bring herself to return to her human family. How could she, knowing that she is a fake, a changeling? Em has a life she wants to live, but her parents will not let her. Well, she could just leave. What control do they have over her? If she leaves, no more magic, none. It is all given to her by them, her father and mother. They're lenient enough to let her work here, to have friends, but not pursue human things. She brings them prey, and they let her keep her borrowed gifts. She has no powers at all without them. None. In fact, if she didn't listen, her giant potion might wear off. It isn't permanent, you know. She has to take it once a month. She takes care of them, the victims, as best she can. In her eyes, though, that doesn't come close to redemption. What do her parents gain from any of this? I don't know. Pain? Suffering? Some magical creatures gain strength from begging humans. The suffering of their souls. Sure, they get turned into animals, but their spirit remains human. I could not say for certain. The bathroom door opened, but she could. I wasn't ready for that at the time. Most of you would say speak to her, to see her side of things, and I do. But there is something about having your life threatened. My body won't let me go speak with her, privately or otherwise. Such a distrust has been rooted in my mind that I can't help but hold a grudge that I don't want. I will get there, though. I will grow to forgive her because I'm determined to. But we got so caught up in talking that the drink sat in the blender about 30 seconds past the point it was finished. That happened often when we were slow, which is bad, I know, but no one's going to die because their drink took a few extra seconds. No one except us, it would seem. The drive-through window shattered. From where we stood by the blender, we could not see the window. It was around the corner by the drive-thru's register. The lights went out as if drowned by a sharp cold that sucked the life from the cafe. Neither Barrow or I moved to check what had happened, but an image of the customer without eyes climbing through to berate us for tardy work entered my mind. I turned to Barrow, hoping he would have something to say. I thought he had been standing right next to me. He wasn't. When I say it was dark, I mean black. All light was torn away, everything but me. Then I was gifted moonlight, which poured from around the corner. From the window, I made the only decision I could, the only option given. I turned the corner to the window. I saw the drive-thru, the same car that had ordered the impossible frappe, and the forest beyond the car. Nothing outside had changed. But the customer, she wasn't right. An eyeless face whispered to me, whispered things I could not understand. She gripped her steering wheel so tightly that her knuckles were tearing. I could see the meat underneath, the bone peeking through. She released her grip and put forth her hands facing me. Her eyes were in her hands. Ye have accepted the impossible request, knowing it could not be done. Was she talking about the cappuccino frappe? I name ye Fate Rider, for what ye shall do has been written by another. A world is in your hands, O Pillar King. Pillar King? Fate Rider? I have your drink, was all I could think to say. Right, and lose all things, she said as her car seeped into nothing. It unraveled at the seams as if iron were just threads connected far too loosely. However, she remained floating, as if her seat still existed. The whispering continued even as she drifted into the dark of the woods, into the very same trees that Tall Ben and all other creatures that plague us live. Burn thy candle. I leapt, spinning around with an open hand to strike whatever had whispered in my ear. There was only open air, however, and the lights were back. Of all the things I have dealt with at the drowsy spectre, nothing has raised my hairs. Not Tall Ben at my apartment, nor Riker's visit during our team meeting. Pillar King, that caused my heart to skip a beat. My breath caught when I considered what it might be. I wasn't supposed to know, or that is how I felt. Reality itself resisted any attempt my mind made. I'm running trash, Barrow announced from near the kitchen, giving me a thumbs up. I nodded, still hard at thought. Where was M? Was I actually back? I threw open the drive-thru window, frozen frappe still in hand, and ignored the looming Tall Ben just outside. Looking for something? Come on out. I will help you find it, he offered. Shut up for a second. Wallet might be in the parking lot. Let me help. Quiet! I shouted at him, staring hard into the woods. I could still hear the whispering. Running trash involved loading up the trash bags, putting them into a cart, then going down the drive-thru to the dumpster. Since Tall Ben was a threat, as was everything else out there, any trash runner had to wear protection. It was a necklace, one very similar to what Riker wore. Same shape, only right side up. Tall Ben didn't bother you if you wore that, but according to Celine, it didn't last long enough to be trustworthy outside of a chore or two. Barrow was on his way back, and Keith was on the other side of the store grabbing cup carriers. Still, I don't know exactly how long the necklace lasts, but it did not seem wise to leave Barrow outside. You see, it locks from the inside, and that means someone would have to open it for anyone running trash. Seeing as Tall Ben was right around the corner, I didn't want to risk anything. I hurried to the back door and passed Keith along the way. He'd finally found the carriers. "Can you watch the front?" Keith nodded. I opened the door for Barrow. "Tall Ben is at the window." "Oh, that's lovely." Then came the scream. Just the sound alone, unaltered, was enough to make me physically jump. But the sound of it fading, like an ambulance speeding away, was terrifying. We rushed to the front, but it was far too late. Neither of us could have possibly been fast enough. I swear I closed the drive-thru window. No, I know I did, but it was open and one shoe lay near the window still. It belonged to Keith. Maybe I did leave it open. Maybe my brain has convinced me that I closed it, so I don't have to consider the fact that I am at least partially responsible for getting someone killed. I so hope he is dead, too. I do not dare wonder what sort of other fate something like Tall Ben or the other denizens of the forest might have in store for a captive. "We can't go after him," Barrow told me, a hand on my shoulder. Like I said, I turn over right. I didn't tell Barrow that I had the window open, that I was talking to Tall Ben. I'm a bad person, I know it. Telling someone, though, felt as if it was solidifying my guilt. That shouldn't matter, though. "Not even with the necklace?" Barrow shook his head. "He is long gone. All we can do is hope that he's already been killed, and killed quickly. It is dark, I know, but try not to feel too much about it. That is dark, but this isn't the first death you will see at the Drowsy Spectre. Celine!" He called towards the office. Try not to dwell on it. Try not to dwell on the fact that a coworker was just snatched from us. I seriously don't understand how he was able to write off what had happened, as if it was nothing. But that is pretty much it. I've been here at home, trying to reconcile with the fact that Keith died. I've been trying to convince myself that I did close the window. I've been up all day, and yesterday, but I know that even if I did, I could have made sure he knew Tall Ben was there. I could have done something. Maybe Barrow is right, though. Maybe I should try to feel less. Perhaps I need to disconnect my feelings from work. That doesn't feel right, though. That doesn't feel human. Usually, I have a little tidbit at the end. Maybe a lesson I learned during whatever the hell the cafe put me through. But I don't this time, except maybe bad things just happen. Maybe they aren't worth dwelling on. I don't know. That sounds bad because that means not dwelling on Keith and who he was. What do we even tell his family? Is it wrong that the creature without eyes is heavier on my mind? I think that is what weighs so much guilt upon me. Her words, all that she said, it keeps me up. I can still hear the whispering. Keith's death doesn't whisper. It doesn't steal my dreams, nor does it make me stare at the doorframe of my bedroom. Did I break a rule? I can still hear the whispers, just outside my room.